60 men were killed in the worst special operations disaster in modern history.
Residents of Coronado, California were shocked by the brutal murder of Lauren Reece and her 3-year-old daughter.
Navy SEAL Lieutenant Commander James Reece survived the ambush but is under investigation.
Welcome to the Terminal List Podcast, an Ironclad original series presented by KC Cattle Company. I'm Jack Carr, author of The Terminal List. On each episode, we break down a different episode of the Amazon Prime video series starring Chris Pratt. On today's show, we're taking a look at episode 6, Transience. Joining me today is series showrunner, writer, and producer David DiGilio, and series producer, actor, technical advisor, and former Navy SEAL Jared Shaw, who is the reason that we are here today. He gave Chris Pratt the book in November, or you read it in November of 2017, and Chris read it in December of that year. Optioned it early January of 2018, and then here we are today. And my first conversation with David was in the parking lot of the Park City Library, where I was working on another novel, and we had a great conversation and have talked every day since.
Every day.
And here we are today now on this podcast. So thank you guys so much for taking the time to do this and for all the time, energy, and effort and care you really put into this show. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And you know what? Before we jump into episode 106, which is our nod to First Blood, of course. Yes. Opening credits. Let's talk opening credits for a second. Like, this was awesome going through this process and seeing, like, I think I saw a storyboard first that I loved. And I remember seeing that first one and I was like, nothing can change. This is perfect. And then things change and it gets better and better and better. And we had 3 song choices and we all kicked them around a little bit and listened, I think, for a period of a couple of days, but we kept coming back to Trigger. It just seemed to be, I mean, they're all great. Like, all of them would have worked. It's like having it's that problem of having only awesome choices out there. But for whatever reason, we always kept coming back to Trigger, which is
so good.
Sweet.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Can you talk about that process, David? Because we
100%. So when you're working on a main title, you're going to work with a separate company that is going to build that main title.
And that's what they do. That's
what they
do.
Oh yeah, and sometimes they're associated with other things. So my main title company is really a visual effects company. And one of the owners of this visual effects company, creative leads of this visual effects company, it's called Barnstorm. They've worked on huge shows, Man in the High Castle, which has gotten, incredible accolades for its effects. So Lawson Dimming is this awesome visual effects producer / director / creative savant. He's really amazing with this stuff. And so we brought him in. And you're pretty deep into the process when you start this, because you kind of have to get everything in the show into the tone that has everyone fired up. And then that's what informs the main titles. But we'd had this idea ever since Max Adams, former Army Ranger turned writer, producer, director. You're going to hear his name a lot in this podcast because he wrote this episode 106. Max worked with Antoine, with Warren Allen Young and the production design team to build Reese's Garage. And it started with an email that Max sent to everybody. And the first line of the email was, "Imagine if this garage were the opening title to the show."
Wow.
To which I replied and said, "This garage is the opening title to the show."
Wow.
Like, it was such a cool idea, the way he framed it. I was just like, yep, that's going to be the main title. And we had to see it come together, right, Jared? And Jack, you were here. Like, that was a scramble
to get that
the
together.
Garage together. And thank goodness, by the way, you were here, because I think you called upon some of your friends to help us build that garage and get the right authentic equipment in that garage. But
it was so fun. If people look close, they'll see if they pause it, and people are pausing it and screenshotting it and circling things on social media and sending things. Oh, this is Dynamis over here.
Yes.
Or look in that back corner way over there. Look at there's a Sornex weight. In one of the episodes, and so there's so many things, little nods in there in that garage. And we did have. Before we did the title sequence, though, so did they put that garage back together for the title sequence, or how did that?
No, what we did is we had wrapped the show and we kept the garage up. It was like the last thing standing. And so it was actually kind of weird for us to like walk back into the house set and like the whole house is like gone.
Yeah.
Except for the garage. And then we were incredibly lucky because Armando Salas, our director of photography, and a lot of our crew came back and shot this with Lawson. And it was just, it was incredible because we also had a pickup shot that the pickup shot is like, if you miss like a little piece of an episode, an insert, sometimes it's called, it's like where you're focused on a watch or you're focused on a list. Those shots that where you don't have the actors in the shot, sometimes you have to pick those shots up after you film the scene. So we had some pickup shots and this main title to film on our kind of final day of filming in Los Angeles. We were filming in Culver City. And dude, Lawson and Armando just really built this thing beautifully. And then they start to send us cuts. And we had 3 music choices, like you said, and then we really got it down to 2. And the runner up, we ended up putting in the show in episode 2 during Reese's run. Siege of Rhodes, really wicked song, so great. You know, that kind of Lord, I'm free moment as he's got his mission. He's realized, right? He's got Holder, he's got a mission. So worked perfectly for that. But Trigger was just, there's something about it.
Yeah.
It just felt like, one, it's kind of got that outlaw country, vibe that we've talked about. The guitar, as Reese's instrument. And then it just fit the cutting pattern so well, these slow moves. And we had built it with these conflations inside the images.
Yeah. And
you see that with the SIG. We had to contact your buddies at SIG to get the diagram and license the diagram so we could pull apart the gun.
Yeah.
And we actually had more of them.
Yeah.
We had more of them, and it was Chris who had kind of like watched it, and we got to our final moment, and Chris is like, I think we have too many.
Yeah. He was right.
And that's what got us to the final place. Lawson was like, okay, totally, I hear you. And Lawson's, like we've talked about, a great team member, great collaborator. And so he fit right in. And man, that was the final iteration that really worked for it.
Amazing. And I had to send my books out. So I had to send this huge box of books, probably weighs 50 some pounds, to get some of these on the shelves for that opening sequence and panning that camera across them. Accidental Gorilla by David Kukullen's in there. Once an Eagle is in there. There's a bunch of them that are in there. But I remember going like, oh my gosh, this is my collection. This is like my the jewels of my collection right here. And I'm taking photos of them and thinking like, okay, if this thing gets lost, eventually I'll take these photos and be able to hopefully give them to someone and say, I need this down. Yes. Track these down for me, please. Yes. I need to write this next novel, but here's your mission. So I did that, but you guys took such good care of them and got them back. And that really, really meant a lot to me. But before we get to that sequence, that opening sequence, Reece is in his garage in different scenes in the first 2 episodes. And there's one book in there, an insurgent book. And by insurgent book, I don't mean a book about insurgency or counterinsurgency, but somebody on set slipped in a book that would not be on my shelves in
incredible.
There. And something from like the mid 90s from, it's just not on theme.
It was not on theme. Yeah, it was
snuck
amazing.
It in. It was kind of, the cover was off, so it kind of blended with the others. I mean, it was a genius move. But I caught it my damn when I was there on set.
Yes,
in the first
you did.
night.
Yes, you did. good.
Boom, off.
Eagle eye. Eagle eye.
Yeah, so there was an insurgent on set. We don't know who it was. But next time I'll be more aware.
Oh, man.
I'll be around more often. Yeah.
Too good. But yeah, no, I love that people are pumped on this main title.
It's awesome. It is awesome. Here, right here we have, boom, look at that right there. That's the platoon patch right there. Look at that. You guys can see that right there. So talk about the platoon patch. Who put this thing together and significance? And it's right there in the opening sequence as well, like leaning up against the books. Yeah. It's on our coin right there. There it is. Yeah. There's the coin from the show. And so we have this right in the main title. Yeah. It's the Alpha Platoon patch, I think it's a real just collaboration between art department and props department and wardrobe. Molly McGinnis and the wardrobe department also, had to make sure that all this the thing worked and all the placements worked as well. It came from an idea that I think Antoine had early on, this notion of the Kraken, as a kind of monster of the deep, which speaks really well to like the seals kind of emerging from the water onto that beach in Syria. But then also the notion of like the multi-tentacled conspiracy. Yeah. That was the other thing we liked about it. So it was kind of that combo is what led us to this idea. And then we turn it over, send some inspirations to art department. And then they have artists who kick it around, send it up to Warren Allen Young, our production designer, and sends it to us. And then we arrive on the final design. And then Jared, do you remember the ultimately like the red eye?
It has the A, right? I'm not looking at it, but just it has the A for Alpha Platoon in one eye, and then it has a 7 in the other eye, and one of them is red and one of them is white, correct? Like I said, I'm not
black.
Not looking
one of them's black. One of them's red and one's black.
Gotcha. And Chris ended up having the idea to change the color to, switch them up, and he wanted to show it, if I remember correctly, and Dave, you may remember better than I do. Yeah. But he wanted, there was significance in that for him in showing like the shift in Reece, essentially, like the
eye of truth. Yeah. It was like the eye of truth and the eye of vengeance. It was cool, but that's the level of detail that Chris was getting into, man. It was incredible. Yeah. Amazing. And for those who don't know, each team has a symbol, but then oftentimes a platoon or a troop will also have a symbol that's unique to them. And this was the one that we created for the show, and it's right there in the main title sequence. So you guys crushed it, and thank you for this, and the coin, obviously amazing. But yeah, that title sequence, it is so awesome. I absolutely love it. It's fantastic. It's like I can't stop watching it. Yeah. And for those who want to check it out, you can go to my Instagram because it's going to be on there. The whole title sequence is on there by the time this drops. It's on the rollout here. But it's so good.
It's one that you don't want to, when you're watching the show and you have the option to skip intro, you don't want to skip intro. You want to watch it, and same deal. I had so many people reach out to me and talk about the song, and like, that's amazing. And it's absolutely, it's catching, you find yourself singing it and looking forward to it when it's coming on in those opening credits. So that whole sequence really is just amazing. So well done.
Like that, the SIG is in there, and then we have the coins on there that turn into the brain. Then we have the bucket full of brass, and then with the sangster on the A-dub. Like an eye. It's so. And that thing is awesome. Yeah. And there's a scene with a hunter scene, actually. And I won't talk exactly where that comes from. I'm going to make people do a little bit of homework on that one. It's when Constance's name comes up in the opening credits. But significant. There's some special things in there. There's some really special things that people can pause, whether it's in the episodes where Chris is there working in the garage or having a conversation in that garage. You can you can pause it and look around. And if you're if you've read the books, or if you've if you followed me on social media and gear and all the rest of it, there'll be little touch points there for everybody. So it's pretty cool the way that the care that went into that. It was just, I mean, that was astounding. It's so cool. And it shows also the level of care that went into every aspect of this production. So
and big hat tip, to Gwen Chevelsky, our post producer, because that falls on Gwen's shoulders, and it's a hard thing because it comes at the end of the process when money is exceptionally tight. And man, she then has to kind of like dig around, find the quarters under the couch cushions, like get everything that she can to throw into that incredibly important piece, right? Because a bad main title is just, right? Yeah. Like you've seen them. It's like, ooh, that's a waste of money.
Yeah,
doesn't work.
This was awesome. You guys crushed it. Oh, amazing. And before we get into 106, which is an interesting episode, especially for me coming into this, my first time into Hollywood or into series production, that kind of thing. I learned so much about why this episode is in there, and so we can talk about all that. But before we get there, a lot of things, when we talk about the care and time and energy and effort that went into every aspect of the show, it's not just the show; it's everything that surrounds the show. And it's this, it's marketing and it's advertising and it's this UFC thing we went to over the weekend. And there's an Amazon military section. And I did not know that. And I went to Normandy for brought 29 veterans back to Normandy for the D-Day commemoration events earlier in June. My daughter went with me. She's 16 years old. We went with the Best Defense Foundation, Donnie Edwards' foundation. So we brought these guys back there. But before we went, Amazon and Delta Airlines threw this big gala for these veterans, for these 29 World War II veterans we're taking back there. They're all mid-90s to some of them over 100 years old. And the ones that are mid-90s all lied about their age to get in. They lied and they were 15 years old and got into World War II.
Oh my
God. They wanted to serve their country. So those are the young ones. Those are the young ones because they lied. It was such a moving experience. My daughter and I, did also for Pearl Harbor this last year, brought veterans back, 63 veterans, I think it was, back to Pearl Harbor for the commemoration events this last December. I think it was life-changing for my daughter. But Amazon Military threw this gala event. I didn't know there was an Amazon Military. And they said, I'm walking down the line and saying hi to everybody, and I see this one guy, and I won't say his name because I didn't ask him ahead of time, but I was like, okay, he looks like he's in shape. He's like maybe a little bit younger than me, sleeve tattoos, I was like, yep. I was like, boom, operator, Army, you can just see it right off the bat. And he has an Amazon Military t-shirt on, and we got to talk later, and sure enough, he was an Army special operator and awesome guy, and worked for another government agency afterward. But now he's working for Amazon on the military side of the house, and they have this whole wing. And when you say Amazon Military, people are like, oh my gosh, Amazon's taking over the world. They're having this but it's not really. It's like really military outreach and bringing veterans into the fold and doing all these things.
Great.
And it's amazing. Great. Yeah, not many people know about it yet. He just sent me some. He just texted me the other day. He's sending me some Amazon Military t-shirts, which is interesting. But just to have that in the on a shirt. But they did this some like food drives and all this stuff with the show and Amazon Military sponsoring, and it's just a really, I didn't even know that existed until I got out there. So point being, there are so many different facets of this show that whether it's direct connect or more important, indirectly connected, that are helping make this thing what it is, and also having a positive impact on communities and everything else. So hats off to Amazon for trusting us and taking a risk on us, like we've talked about in past episodes with some of the things they let us do, but then also doing things like that military outreach. It's just it's really cool to see them doing that.
That's fantastic, because it's one thing if you're making it the ethos of your show and everyone who's kind of working with you day to day has that passion. It's a whole different thing when you get to the point of like, okay, now we're going to get this show out there, and that's the first thing they bring up. Yeah. Like, that's amazing. Yeah. Because and that's how they came into this. They were like, tell us. So, I think like even back in the writer's room, they were like, what are the connections to the military in the writer's room? And I was able to talk to them about the military veterans who we hired, but then also each civilian writer's connection to the military through their families. And they cared about it from the word go, that's like March of 2020 when they came on. It was one of the first questions they asked.
Yeah. Amazing. And that leads us right into 106, written by Army veteran, Army Ranger, Max Adams, who wrote this, was in the writer's room through the whole process, stayed with us all the way through the whole production, and was there every day on set, along with Jared and Ray Mendoza. And I really think without those three guys there, and then Dave, without you, Chris, and Antoine trusting them, this would be a very different show.
Yep, agreed. Yep. This is a special podcast. With wish we had Max here. Max is a very private person. I respect that always. We try to get him on camera. He just somehow, and he never was no, I don't do that. He just figure out how to not be there. Amazing, incredibly humble guy, but just a genius guy. I always tell people he was my last handshake before the pandemic, as it was all coming down, we're meeting writers. He was the last person I met in person before the world shut down. Jeez. And that's kind of special. And there's something about that sticks with you. And he's really got an incredible origin story and his kind of transition from military life into writing. He wrote the latest Expendables. He's worked with huge names in action. And he just is such a book fan too. Yeah. Jack, before you got to know Max, he was just a book fan. And so cool. We knew when we met him, not only were we getting an incredible writer who had lived the special operator experience, but we were getting this incredible book fan who knew the whole world backwards and forwards. So I always had you on my speed dial, but then in the room had an immediate sniff test really for anything. And that came through Max. And so, in terms of the evolution, you mentioned this earlier, Jack, about why this episode exists, right? Because it's very different than the other episodes. Mm-hmm. And here we are in episode 6. And we knew, and we talked about this, it's the thing about that list, he's setting them up, knocking them down, setting them up, knocking them down. But what if he got into an episode where he couldn't kill anybody? Mm-hmm. And Reese's superpower was kind of stripped from him in this moment in terms of identify, evaluate, execute these things that we've seen him doing. And now, holy fuck, he is just alone, on the run, a bunch of people trying to kill him, and he can't shoot back. Mm-hmm. What would that be like? And it's actually, it is in effect a chapter from the book.
Yeah, no.
It's chapter 65, right? This is the Freddie Strain intro chapter.
Right.
And so when I pitched this to you, I was like, all right, I think there's a whole episode in this, because just the character situation you've put Reese in.
Yep.
And that moment that he sees that it's Freddie, right? Yep. Damn it, Fred, what are you doing down there?
Yep. Is it
16? Let's check.
Some of them make sure we get it right.
Yeah.
Some of them. Freddie here sent the recall text in 63 right here. And this is the new, by the way, hardcover edition where I talk about how the book came to be in a new forward in here, how the series came to be. Try to thank everybody that from George Sack, who did all the mobility stuff for the show, all the veterans involved in the show, the writers on the show, the actors behind the show, the people behind the cameras. So that's all in here in the forward, how the book and the series came to be. And then we got these photos from the set right here. But yeah, that's so. And I love the part where that is the real nod. So the people that have read the book and remember what happened in that chapter. That one right here. So here it is, 65. Here we go, 65. And Yep, there we go. And so right in the middle of this episode, I think, maybe just past the midpoint, there's really the nod to this chapter. If people have read the book, and they'll know it when they see it.
Yep.
But, too cool. But the point of this episode, what's our nod to First Blood? Max all in on it. It's awesome. I had David Morrell on my Danger Close podcast, who created the character Rambo back in 1972 with First Blood. This past May was its 50th anniversary of publication, and it's never been out of print since 1972, which is very rare for a book. But I told him about this episode for him, and he was very excited that there was a nod to First Blood in this show. But Max Adams writes this thing, and who's directing this episode?
This is Sylvain White.
Nice.
Sylvain
comes back.
An awesome man and artist. French, has been over here for years. Started off like Antoine in the music video world, moved into the action feature world, and now shoots some of the biggest shows around. He shot my last show, then went on, did a bunch of Umbrella Academy, which is a wild, kick-ass show. And then we were able to hire him back, and he did episode 6 and episode 8, our finale.
Yeah, amazing. And this one, Reece is on the run. We just left him, leaving San Francisco, car chase, have to figure out how to get him out of the vehicle on the run. And that was cool, figuring all that out as well. But he goes on the run. And there's something about this episode where it takes the viewer out of something that they expected. And was there a name for that? Dave, was there a name for something like that in series television? I forget if there was.
No. This is So this is a good behind the scenes thing. And Jared and I laugh about this because this is our bottle episode. That's what it's called. So your bottle episode is when you are shooting a giant show, or any show really. At a certain point, you are exhausting your resources. And so you have to kind of take your globe-trotting show, and then you're putting one whole episode in one location. And they call it the bottle episode. If you saw Breaking Bad, the most famous bottle episode ever is the Fly in Breaking Bad, where they're stuck in the meth lab with a fly. And that's the whole episode. It's insanely cool. But this, as a bottle episode, is kind of a joke, because this is a magnum of champagne. This is maybe our most expensive episode outside of the pilot. It's a beast. And so there was no, even though we were in a couple places to film the whole thing, there's nothing bottle about this at all. And this was one where I think I was actually in post in a big way at this moment. And Jared, you and John Schumacher and Max Adams, I mean, you guys are just producing the hell out of this thing. Absolutely. Because this is action beat after action beat. And based in real operator tradecraft, which I'm not even going to attempt to explain. I will turn that over to you guys.
Yeah, so we got Reece on the run, and people that read the books will probably be like, wait, what? Until they see that one scene about halfway through where he leaves the bullet out there because he can't. And well, I'll get to that when we get to that part. But here we go. Right here, we got this guy on the run. There he is.
That's a great
Chris
shot.
Pratt as Navy SEAL sniper
shot.
James Reece, on the run. And he put out for this. I mean, just watching it, you're like, oh, he took a beating in this episode. I mean, he's running through the woods, climbing cliffs, getting buried alive. There's a lot going on in this episode right here. Breaking into the cabin. That's a cool scene right there. We've got the Eberly stock backpack on. You got the gear. He loses his meds. So that plays in, leaves him in the car. So we have that. We have HRT coming into the fold here, bring hostage rescue team, FBI in to track him down in the mountains. But so Jared, you were on set there for this. So what was important to you about filming this thing, knowing that that operators are gonna watch it, and also knowing that you have to like we talked about before, when James Reece crosses the street at night, well, you can't just have a black screen there. You have to actually show him crossing the street. So there's some things that, are Hollywood that you have to show. But what was most important to you as you guys showed up on location to film this thing? Were you nervous about it?
I mean, I think there's a bit of nerves with every episode, and every scene within the episode it's a different challenge. It's a different beast. And like Dave was talking about, this one was so big on so many different levels, and there was times that we were stretched so thin, covering down on different, just different scenes that we're having to get knocked out. Dave, was this the one that at one time we had like 3 different sets running? You remember that?
Yes. Oh my God.
That was this one, right?
That was this one. That's exactly right. It was Chris Pratt's birthday. Mm-hmm. The people who saw that recent post Chris just had his birthday, that post was from a year ago, Chris's birthday. That's why everybody was still in masks and stuff, as we were still in the height of it. And we had a unit shooting episode 5 down in South Bay of Los Angeles. Then we had 2 units shooting up in, I believe, Griffith Park of Los Angeles. One of those units was Sylvan's main unit, and the other was Max Adams directing second unit for the car chase that opens this whole thing. That's right. And yeah, that's the insanity of building what is really a location-based action show. Is sometimes the only way you can do it is to start to divide and conquer and shoot simultaneously. And so that puts an enormous amount of pressure on your keys or your department heads, because they then have to hire new people to come in, call them day players sometimes, who come in and have to then, run those other units for them at the same quality we all have come to expect. And then that's where Jared and his many hyphens also comes in. But like, really, everybody has to step up their game as producers to make sure that you're getting everything from the page to screen. And it's a real hat tip to everyone involved that you can even survive a day. And Chris would like never ever mention this, but like you, Mr. Tough Man, Jared Shaw with the bicep. Chris, I think on that day was injured on his birthday and just worked right through it. Yeah. Through it. And yeah, you had the heat, you had everything. And Chris just always pushed through. And Jack, to answer your question, was I nervous that day when we were all split up like that? Dave, you, John, myself were on one set, and then the 2 of y'all went to visit another one. And I remember you looked at me and you were like, all right, Jared, you got it. And it was the HRT scene where they're moving through, and so here I am at that point. I'm the only producer on set, Yes, HRT. Yeah, it was that one right in there. Yep. And only producer on that set, and then cover down on the tactic side of the HRT and what they had going on. And so I tried to play it off like I wasn't nervous, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't. Definitely a little bit. You crushed it, brother. You crushed it, brother, man. But that's how you learn, right? Like getting those moments where someone says, "Okay, you're ready. It's your set." Right. Nice. And Dave away. And once again, just to just once again pass my respect on to you of getting me in that position to say, all right, now you're ready, like allowing me to kind of work under you and your mentorship on all that. I felt confident, even though I was still, of course, a little nervous. I felt confident to be like, all right, let's do this. Let's rock and roll. You set me up for success in that way. So I appreciate that. Well, thank you. And it's again, that's the reward for everything that you're putting into the show every step of the way up to that. And Jack would be the same. I think, you've learned so much in terms of production and stuff. You would have that skill set because it takes a while to kind of learn how to really communicate with the different departments, especially, and with the director, which is really key because it is ultimately, even as a showrunner, it is the director's set, and you really have to empower the director. They have to be like, they have to know everything is in this rectangle is coming from their vision, right? Massively important. And that's what I saw, Jared. I saw you click into that, how to work with that director, and boom, like that's the moment.
Nice. Yeah.
Amazing. We had a lot going on in this episode. I mean, we had the car chase in the beginning. We have helicopters coming in. And we have fast roping going on. Got HRT on the ground. Tony out with them.
HRT
studs. Such a good
Nate
team.
Boyer coming in. Got the boys coming in.
You got a whole crew. Yeah, that was and those guys are all still friends to this day. They all still go out and hang out and just truly buddies, and you could see that on camera. There's that chemistry between those guys, we're like, yep, those were the right guys brought on for the job. They clicked. They really they did well.
All military veterans.
Yep.
And HRT.
Nice. Remy's in there. Lecky's in there. Like, man, such cool guys. I've known Nate Boyer for quite a few years now, so it was great to see. And it was a surprise to me to see him in there. I'm like, no way.
Yeah.
So that was cool to see him in this. And so many personal connections throughout this whole thing, from that first episode all the way through. And obviously how it even exists to begin with me and Jared, and Jared passing the book to Chris. So there's so much going on in this one. And let's go back and talk about the title of this one. Dave, what's the title for Transcendence?
It's transient. I think, transience, and it's like this moment where things are getting fuzzy, in the memory. Like you start to second guess it, and we thought it was great because as we were kind of conceiving of this one in the writers' room, and really like gave it to Max to run with, and really like kind of said, okay, here are the parameters. Run with it. Max not only loves First Blood, he loves Jacob's Ladder, loves it. And he was like, as we talked about it, we're like, wow, like those two experiences and tones together. Yeah. That's really unique. And so that was like the notion behind he loses his medication. Reece loses his medication in the car crash. And so now, like, he's got to fight the elements. He's got to fight off people who are trying to capture or kill him. And he has to fight himself. And the notion of survivor's guilt, which we've touched upon before and is a big driver in the book, right? Like in kind of Reece's internal monologue in the book, he touches upon this a lot in terms of his men. That wonderful scene I think at Rosecrans, right? When he goes back and that sense of survivor's guilt with his men and his family. This was a moment for us to get into that. So you've got the action layer that's coming from set piece after set piece after set piece, but then you've got the emotional layer that comes from the survivor's guilt boiling up to the surface. For this character, because he doesn't have the meds that have been kind of like tamping down the symptoms and the conflations of the tumor. Yeah.
And he's wounded on top of that.
Oh, yeah.
Wounded.
Got to deal with the
beginning.
Wound.
Leon winged him, caught him. Winged him. The beginning of the episode. So he's taking that into it. Bleeding quite a bit through it all. And it's a rough day.
But it actually starts with a flashback. And this is the one where, and if people look closely, I think they'll see a little honey next to his coffee there.
Yes.
So, but now he's with his wife's parents. He's with Lauren's parents, and great, incredible actors. And then Catherine delivers that line that we talked about in another episode that I just keep going back to. Do what you need to do.
Yeah,
like, and because she's like blaming him. You see, and we had to cut some things, funeral scene stuff that she was in earlier on that didn't make it. But you really got the sense that she's holding him accountable, blaming him for what happened. You get the sense in this scene that that's also the case. She's the one that's sitting there that's just staring and tells them kind of get to the point. Why are you here? Type of a thing. Reece doesn't want to hear about your bike. What are you here for? And
that, by the way, hat tip though, that's Tom Amandas, who Chris had worked with for years, I think, on Everwood.
Yeah.
And oh man, he plays Lauren's dad. He's so good in that scene.
So good. It was longer originally. It was still great. And then we kind of whittled it down a little bit to get those essential elements in there. But when she delivers that chilling line at the end, and that's how it stops, and then bam, we're back present day, on the run. But yeah, that's a great line once again.
Oh, dude. And that comes from
this film.
that comes from the book when Reece stops by to see his mom on the way out of town and on the mission. That's what inspired this scene and a little bit of how the sausage gets made. The scene was actually originally in episode 3. That scene existed in episode 3, but it didn't play, oddly, which is because it's a really powerful scene, but it didn't play because it was on his way up to meet Katie in Los Angeles. And it was just too soon for someone to say, you do what you got to do.
Right.
Because we still didn't trust him, right? We hadn't had the firefight with Gordo in finding the target package, the things that, say it's real. So it was too odd for someone to say, go do this, Reece, even though the audience is still a little an unreliable narrator. Mm-hmm. But then when we got to 6, we're like, oh, wait, it plays here.
Nice.
Because it's literally, it's almost like that meme, right? This is how it started. This is how it's going, right? Mm-hmm. So you open and you're in this moment that we hadn't been privy to yet, where this fucking badass woman says, go do what you have to do. Right. Yeah. I understand.
Mm-hmm. It's chilling.
It's chilling, right?
I got to tell her that too. I got to tell her that at the premiere.
Oh, I love that.
Say, hey, I just have to tell you.
I love that you got that moment. Because really it's very hard when we, there's a lot of people who get, come into the show who affect us, but then we don't get to say that to them. Right. And she and Tom in that scene is great. And then this is how it started. And then it cut to, boom, fuck.
This is how it's going. Come and get some. Yeah.
Exactly.
No, it's great. Reece has a map. He looks at it. He has to travel. He knows where he's going and runs into some things along the way like this. Bam. Look at that.
Nice.
Yeah. So when people get to this part, how did that fall? Who did that? How did that? I mean, it looks like a body falling and hitting the rock. Black Rifle Coffee hat on right here. I think in this picture, I think he's stolen the Breacher backpack already at this point.
Yes.
But,
the Breacher pack.
Yeah. How did you guys film that fall?
I mean, that was, I don't know how much we've talked about Chris Romero on here, being Pratt's stunt double, but that guy, I mean, and Doubles Down's fight coordinator, that guy is just a stud in every sense of the word, you know, and not just physically in what he's able to do, but the way he thinks about things and the way his mind works, and he can build out scenes, So this fall, I mean, he legitimately takes a fall, he's hitting, and Dave, you can get into the science of making it look as well as it did and fast pace and everything. But yeah, he's legitimately taking a digger and hitting hard. And I've had people reach out about that, and they were like, dude, is that guy alive? What happened? That's him.
It's such a shock
Chris.
When it hits. You're like,
it's so crazy. Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
It's
Chris Romero. I mean, what an amazing guy. People should go check out Chris Romero's Instagram because he's also hilarious.
He's so
for
funny.
A big guy, he can move.
He's insane. He's
parkour.
God. It's like this crazy parkour gymnastics flex. I mean, it's crazy.
Like 6'3", 6'4", 230 pounds, and he moves like a lightweight. I mean, he can just do a standing backflip. And he's just he's a specimen.
You don't find too many big guys like that that are that strong and can move like that. Like that's unique. And to really climb the balcony in episode 2 and go over the balcony and all that stuff. Just, it's incredible. But yeah, follow him on Instagram because he's also hilarious. He did a 4th of July post yesterday all in slow motion with like the music and the hair. And he has like this shirt that we did, a little commemorative 4th of July shirt with my friends at Ball and Buck. And it's got like the cross tomahawks on the elbows. And it's got, it's like red, white, and blue. And it's all made in America. And so he like opens a Jocko Go, like slow motion, like drinks it, tosses it, like opens his shirt up, like all to the music. It's hilarious. But yeah, he's amazing. I'm glad he's okay after that fall because that looked like it would kill most people.
Oh, dude, it's crazy. So, I mean, just that fall, it's created by like multiple things: camera, Chris Pratt's performance, and Chris Romwell's commitment kind of add up to it. None of it is that high up. We're doing a little bit with Romwell on ropes. That fall, he's jumping up, coming down and hitting that rock hard, and then falling onto another pad that is the second hit. And then we capture him as he jumps up and then use visual effects to have him fall into frame. That's the kind of secret sauce to it. And it's remarkable because, dude, he does hit so hard. And then you need things like sound to really nail that as well. And, but it's then all of that kind of Chris before he peels. And then Chris, as he kind of comes out of it and comes up, and then boom, it leads into that next scene at night with the call with Tony, the radio call, which is
so good.
Like, love that scene.
Yeah. Has he already left the bullet at this point? I'm trying to go back. I'm having conflation as well.
Oh, he left right before this.
Okay.
He loses HRT when he's got that shot, and there's a little excellent boozer moment there too.
Yeah. Right. Giving some advice. Reece has these guys. And so in the book, I don't know if I really talked about this ever before, but in the book I had it outlined a different way. So there's an ambush at the cabin. It's SEALs that are going in, the highest tiered Naval Special Warfare guys going in hunting James Reece. They have him tracked to a cabin in New Hampshire in the book, and Reece has kind of turned the tables, and he needs to confirm something. And if these guys show up, then he knows that there's another name to add to the list in the book. And I had it outlined, and very rarely has this happened, because I start with a title, I start with a theme, I do a 1-page executive summary, I read that summary and I ask, is this worth 1 year of my life? And if it's yes, then I read it again and say, is it worth the time that someone else is going to invest in this as well? It's going to add value to their life. And if both those answers are yes, then that's my story. And I take that and turn it into an outline. And in the outline, I had something different happen in that scene. And so I'm going through and I'm writing, and I get to that scene and I start it just like I would any other chapter. Yeah. And I couldn't write it the way I had it in the outline. It wouldn't come out. And it's because of what I have Reece doing. And you can imagine what that is. If you know the pace of the book, and you know that my little yellow sticky, which I had on my computer that said revenge on it, which guided everything that I did. And I think is why Simon & Schuster had very few content edits when it got to them. Very few, because I was on theme the entire time. And whether it was directly or indirectly, everything had to lead back to that theme. But I have this awesome, crazy action sequence planned, and it won't come out. Wow. Because I'm so personally invested in the character, in the story. It has so many ties to my foundation in the SEAL teams, and just as a human, it didn't come out. It wouldn't happen, but it came out a different way. Just naturally, this chapter came out a completely different way. Dude. And then you capture it in the film, in the series, with Reece not being able to take a shot and leaving a bullet there for these guys so they know that he could have, which is pretty cool. So you guys got it.
Really cool.
Awesome.
Yeah. Really cool.
Super powerful.
That scene was fun. That scene was
and there's Jared right there, and you got my thing in there. You got my precision with a rifle.
Precision with a rifle.
Yeah. Requires precision and thought.
Yeah. And that was, that was really kind of I'd say my first attempt at writing a scene, I didn't write all the dialogue by any means, but Jack, you and I talked about it a little bit, and that's obviously where that line came from. I'm not smart enough to come up with great dialogue like that, but
you are, dude.
No, I appreciate it. But then, and then Dave, you and I being able to work together on it and find a home for it, and being able to put that in there. And then it ended up just being such a powerful moment that led to Reece leaving the round there and later finding it, and it all came together in a cool way and powerful way.
Yeah.
So awesome. I'm so glad you're there with him in that scene. It's so cool to see you guys together. And then where that line came from, it's an old Army Special Forces sniper from Vietnam who was very impactful to me in my life. And he passed it along to me 20 plus years ago, maybe 30.
Wow.
And he said, precision in language reflects precision in thought. And so putting precision with a rifle requires precision in thought came from that. And he was an Army Special Forces sniper in Vietnam, part of Project Delta, just an incredible human being. So, and I got a lot of my leadership and thinking things through logically, tactically, that sort of a thing from him. And he's the guy that gave me Once an Eagle by Anton Meyer, which was also very impactful and is on Reece's shelf in the series. So all these things that tie back are so personal in so many cases, and that's just one of them. But in this episode, Reece can't kill anybody. We have a storm coming in, and we have there's this whole thing is a nod to First Blood, but really when he's seeking shelter from the storm, the radio. The flashback to family, flashback to buds, the bell. I think that's all in here as well in this episode. Cox in there, but all of that and talking on the radio. That's pretty cool. And I love how he's talking to his wife just like you would in real life. And then all of a sudden, it's not. The Terminal List podcast is presented by Kansas City Cattle Company. Kansas City Cattle Company believes in keeping things authentic, and they believe if you taste the product, you'll taste the difference. Kansas City Cattle Company is veteran-owned and operated and delivers Wagyu beef and other high-quality proteins with a palatable difference to all 50 states. They have Brookshire pork, pasture-raised chicken sourced from another veteran-owned company, and sustainably caught seafood. They're also known for their world-famous Wagyu hot dog, which was featured by foodandwine.com in a viral article saying they had found a hot dog that tasted like steak. Other bestsellers are their Wagyu steak, briskets, and tri-tip roasts. There's also been buzz about their Wagyu bacon cheeseburger brats. Other favorites include Wagyu hanger steak, Wagyu bone-in ribeye, and their Wagyu chuck-eye steaks. The team started Kansas City Cattle Company to bridge the gap in high-quality proteins and top-notch animal husbandry practices to the end consumer. They believe good protein starts with good conditions for the animals. As the company grew, they hired their first employee, a veteran, just getting out of the Army. From there, their new mission to hire an all-veteran staff was born. Today, their mission now includes serving high-quality protein to those they once served and helping other veterans find their new mission post-service. Save 15% on the exclusive Terminal List collection at kccattlecompany.com/Jack Carr with code JackCarr15. That is JackCarr 15. That's KC Cattle Company, KCCATTLECOMPANY.com/Jack Carr, JackCarr, and use that code JackCarr15.
Dude, and it's now Tony, and this is what goes back to what we talked about with JD, right? It's like for this moment. That's why you cast JD Pardo.
That's right.
And these are filmed on two different nights, right, Jared? I mean, two different locations, 2 different nights. I was able to make it out for this and to watch this. This is another thing that shows you the kind of ethos and selflessness of this show. Chris came all the way out there and stayed late into the night to do the off screen for JD's side when we filmed it. And then JD reciprocated, came all the way out to this state park where we were filming, and did the off screen for Chris. And I was just like, damn, these guys are into it. This is what you want.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Pure team.
Yeah. How about Lauren in the beginning of that scene singing?
So Riley.
Oh yeah.
Man.
It's really her singing. It's really Riley, isn't it?
She's incredible.
I mean, it's like
Elvis is, you can hear it, right?
Yeah. Elvis
so good.
Yeah.
So good.
I love that little moment. I love it so much. And I remember when Max put it in there and the kind of the move into this discussion of, it's one thing to be a SEAL, it's another to be a father.
Yeah.
Man.
And everybody can relate to, every operator coming back can relate to all of that. And we got a little surf torture / surf conditioning in there as well. So
and young Ben, that was cool to see, right? You see, I mean, it's a little like, do people recognize that as like, it's like when you shave, Jared, do people know that's Ben? I hope they do. They do. We had to say his name.
Yeah. They may not know it right away. They may not pick it up.
Oh man.
Right away.
Yeah. No, Taylor, I mean, fortunately he's been in so much, everybody knows what he looks like, beard or no beard. It's amazing.
So right.
It's so good.
And that to go back real quick, I believe if I remember correctly, in that conversation between Tony and Reece over comms, I believe it's my favorite line of the entire show is when Tony asked, Reece about, what his father would think about what he's doing or something like that. And the response that Reece gives is he said, it would be a mistake to push a man to violence if violence is what he's dedicated his life to perfecting. And to me, that was, I remember reading it on the page and then seeing Chris say that, and that line that's so powerful to me. So powerful.
Yep. Unbelievable line. I mean, that script, I mean, that was, I think, you asked Jack about like the pressure that you feel. And I think, we can share this, but it's like, I think we all felt a lot of pressure on 6 because Max's script was the one everyone was just most fired up about. Like, we were just all so fired up to tackle this because there was stuff that he had learned from survival school that he was putting in there. There were these moments that were so massive in the book that we were trying to capture and hit upon. There were these like this intensity of like the kind of physical and emotional complications that he's going up against. We all put like the weight of the world on ourselves. And it's very late in the season at this point, and the crew is just killing themselves. Like, and again, it's like July in California. We were in a massive heat wave.
Yeah.
It was the crucible, really. And we came out of it, with a freaking awesome episode, but people suffered for this one, especially, Chris, but it never show it. You just keep pounding, keep grinding.
Never talk about it, never say it, never complain. And we got some great lines in here that will resonate with operators, particularly SEALs. We got Frogman Luck in there. Ben says that. So it's something we talk about in the SEAL teams. I've never heard that anywhere else before. Like even on like SEAL Team CBS or any of the other movies that are out there.
Wow.
I don't think I've ever heard that anywhere else, but Frogman Luck is something we talk about in the SEAL teams. And so you got that in there. We got Leroy Jenkins in there, which was very popular for a while for those that were in around like,
huge.
I don't know. Gosh, I want to say 2005, 6, maybe 7, 4, 5, 6, 7 time frame right there. Leroy Jenkins just going in alone. And people can look it up on YouTube. You know, what's the video game it's in? But they're like all in there, and there's
is it Warcraft? World of Warcraft, I think.
I don't know what it is, but this one guy's like, Leroy just goes in, Leroy Jenkins, and boom, he goes in, and the other guys are like, what? And so they're doing like
just get slaughtered, training, just utterly slaughtered.
So we do things like in training, we bring that up at that time frame quite a bit. You know, taking a room by yourself or you know, whatever else. Then you bring it up downrange. I remember talking about it in Ramadi in 05 and 06. Leroy Jenkins. Yeah. So that made
classic.
that makes
all
an
Max
appearance
right there.
in there.
Yeah.
We have Steve Horn crossed out in blood.
Oh,
that's cool.
Love that. I love that scene so much. Great spot they found the cave.
Yeah, we got the bell in there, and we got some heat signatures going on. Reece has to think. You got Jared talking to Chris as Boozer and asking about the dope. Is it solid and all that?
Yep.
It's just there's so many cool lines in this one. And then we get to this landslide.
Ooh,
yeah.
Dude, that was big. That was heavy.
Yeah.
And it came out looking great.
Dude, I mean, again, you know, it's so, I mean, we talked about this in downtown LA. That was just one episode ago where we all, you know, really went to the mat as a cast and crew and team to capture that. And then, you know, 2.5, 3 weeks later, there we are out in Santa Clarita, 105 or 6 degrees that day. And multiple units shooting. You know, this is like Chris Romwell is throwing himself down a mountain with Max filming him over and over and over again. You know, probably 4 seconds of that gets into the final picture. Like that's the commitment that's going on there. And then Reece brings down a mountain. And that was the thing when Max pitched this episode. And we were like, if you can get James Reece to a place where like literally the man has nothing left to lose and he's willing to bring down a mountain and take his chances, like that is the character that has just got nothing left, right? And that confrontation between Reece and Mac, Christina Vidal, who's incredible in that moment. And then that kind of like those little flashbacks to Lauren, Lucy, Alpha Platoon, and that Chris, that look. And you just know Chris is going to do it. And boom. I mean, Jimmy Lorimer, special effects, really kind of brought down half a mountain out in Santa Clarita. It's the biggest explosion I've ever been a part of filming.
Wow.
It was monstrous.
Amazing. And you can go to Chris Romrell's again and Justin Lubin's Instagram, and that photo is on there. It's actually Chris Romrell's whatever icon or whatever his main photo
of him leaping off
jumping.
the mountain.
Yeah,
cool.
God,
it's amazing. So people can go and check that photo out because it's
and Sylvan, our director, had that thing storyboarded, worked like hell with Evans Brown, everybody. Casey Caldwell from the AD department, just epic amount of work went into capturing that sequence. And then we handed over to visual effects, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
to ride
seeing
that
the
wave.
difference, seeing that for me, seeing that and seeing like I don't know, Photoshop where there's like, and this is where the mountain comes down, and then seeing it like how it ended up, that was really cool to.
It's cool,
to see.
right? Yeah.
But talking about Christina again, right there, like there are these moments in there that humanize Reece. And just with like a little bit of a look, you know, because he could be like stone cold right there, and no matter what she says, boom, bringing it down.
Yes.
And she has this great line, even, you know, something about, you know, former Army, whatever, and she's like, even SEALs need heroes. and Chris is just, you see just little, you know, little tiny, you know, so it's like that. I love that there are these little things that humanize them. Most of the time in this, it's with Ben and Chris having that kind of interaction, but there's some others in there as well.
That line.
When she says that, and he, you know, and you see that look, you know, because it's a good one. You
It's
know,
a
he's
great
like,
one.
no, it's a great one. He knows it, you know, and that's so I love that as well that they do that. And then you guys brought a mountain down, and visual effects spices it up. But in seeing all the different cuts, and then to see how both Christina and Chris have these straws and they're buried alive in there, and then see how it looks at the end, like they're really buried alive.
Really buried alive.
I don't know, a big backhoe thing or whatever, and dump sand and dirt on them.
Yeah.
And they have this little breathing tube. And then Chris, this is one where Chris stayed under maybe a little too long.
Oh yeah,
we did.
That was like do you remember, Dave? Like you could, when they dumped all the dirt on him, I mean, you could feel it on the ground, you could feel it hit, like you could feel the weight of what was being dropped on him, and then
and his little straw just goes, like it's just gone, like our little breathing apparatus just gets knocked out with the
breathing
dirt
apparatus.
Also known as a straw. It's a rebreather. We call it a rebreather.
We're all sitting there we're all sitting there just like, wait, no, like, all right, we know he's not breathing. Like what's the, and like you said, Jack, we're like, all right, it may have been just a little bit too long, but he just committed, and then we start seeing him crawl out of there, which was crazy. Yeah.
And we were going to go in, and he had kind of talked about this after, like he was going to play it because he knew he can hold his breath like crazy. He was going to play it. But then by the time he started to move, he realized how heavy the dirt was.
Yeah.
And then he realized, oh crap, I really have to get out. And it's just like, for all of us, we're getting ready to run in and go get him.
Yeah. It was that close.
It's that close. Like Keith and from stunts, and we're all, we have safety precautions and everything ready to go. And we're about to trigger him and go. And then his finger breaks out. And then he comes out and he's coughing up actual dust from that drop, coughing it up. And as he says, he's like, at that point, it's not acting. Like it's just real.
Yeah,
it's just
he talks about on Jimmy Kimmel. He tells the story on that one, and apparently it's very well known throughout the land that Chris can hold his breath. I wasn't aware of that. But pretty well known apparently, and so that's what he does. Wants to try to stay under for a little bit, make everybody a little bit nervous, and then it's like, okay, I got him, time to move, and then he can't. And he's like, oh geez, and really struggles and gets his finger out, gets out of there, and then he said after that scene, people are like, Chris, that's the best acting I've ever seen you do, amazing. And he's like, yeah, it wasn't acting, that was survival. So we got it, that was amazing. And then Christina, same thing, getting uncovered there. And then visual effects did with the landslide, and then the river in the background, and then Tony getting down there and asking if anybody's seen James Reece, and then he comes into the hangar, reemerges. So great. Yeah, kind of after his time in the cave, for those who know Joseph Campbell and Here with a Thousand Faces and The Hero's Journey. So he's reemerged, and he is at the. I love that scene too. Coming back in and getting meeting Liz again, linking back up with her, and another powerful line. Once again, talking about the women delivering powerful lines in this. We have Marco's wife telling Reece not to come back. We have Catherine's line saying, "Do what you have to do," and then we have this powerful Roll Tide. Tyner turning around in that plane and yelling that, and it's like this,
God, I love
this
that
primal beat. Roll Tide. It's not just like, I'm going to say this. It comes back to my character, and off he goes. Like there is this emotion in there that I heard that, and I was like, and saw it obviously, and I mean, you can't believe it. It's like that is awesome. She connected with like every element of her character and the story in 2 words. Yelled from the front of the plane. Awesome. Tyner, unreal, incredible.
Unreal.
And then that moment they share before he jumps, that moment that he looks at her and he calls to her, they look at each other and no words are spoken, but 1,000 words are said, it's just that look between the two of them, it was, and then he goes, so well done.
Yeah. And that's their goodbye. And both of them know that they're not going to see each other ever again. Yep. That's their goodbye. Yep. It's powerful. It's powerful. And then Ben's down there on the beach.
Yep.
Amazing.
Standing by.
Yep. Incredible. But yeah, this one is we talked about the similarity to the book, but people really have to have paid attention in the book to get it.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
But if they listen to this podcast, then they will.
They'll see all the inspirations.
Yep. No, it's fascinating. We had some great lines in here. All these different lines, all the Leroy Jenkins. We got Dope in there. We got Frogman Luck. Amazing. You guys crushed it with this one. And then it is a sprint to the end. Episode 7 and 8 are up, and it doesn't stop. I mean, these next two are pretty awesome. And no longer is he constrained by not being able to kill anybody like he was in episode 6.
Exactly.
Now it's time to go get some. Now it's
time
to go stack some bodies.
Yes.
So those will be the next two that'll take us through to the end.
Yeah.
Man. And so in filming that episode, what's the one thing, Jared and Dave, that stands out to you? I mean, there's so many different things to me that I just ran through, but you guys were, especially Jared, like you were there in the thick of it. Like when you think back on that episode, what do you think back on as either most fondly, or what's your what's a memory that pops first to mind when you think about how long did it take also to film that episode up in the canyon?
What was that, Dave? How long did
I think we had 15 or 16 days.
Yeah.
So fewer than the pilot, but maybe 1 to 2 more than we got for most episodes.
Got it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Jack, that one's so packed. That is so packed, and it's hard to unpack it and focus on and try to pick one thing. You know, what we didn't talk about was him cauterizing his arm. The wound, we didn't hit on that one. And Dave, in post, there was so much time spent on getting that right, and so much done with, visual, the VFX on that part of it was, there was so much, and they did amazing on it. It ended up coming out great, and so that was a cool scene. I'm a little biased because the knife he uses is a knife I designed. No big deal.
Oh, nice.
So that's
nice. The buck you designed.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So I designed it a couple of years ago, and we used it in Tomorrow War, but didn't really get seen. But this one, and Chris loves that knife. He's like, oh no, we're going to use it in this one. And so that scene, such an iconic scene, it was cool that, he used that blade to do it. And, cool. And just a cool scene. That whole scene was just heavy. All of it, cauterizes himself and boom, passes out, and really cool. Really good.
Yeah, I think for me, I mean, God, again, you said it, Jack. There's so many huge things, and it would be easy to go with the landslide day and just how monstrous that was. But I think for me, and I was actually not there when this was filmed, but just I heard about it, and then I saw it in the edit and worked on it in the edit and went, oh, I get it. Which is the memory moment in the burn scar where he sees his house and he's now on the outside looking in. And that moment where he puts his hand up to his daughter who he's lost, and they kind of connect across some plains. That to me, whew, man, I was just looking at the performances in that and the music that we have in that. I mean, just all of it, the way it was shot, that to me really gets me. And this is in so many ways the episode where you're kind of resetting Reese's humanity before that final run. Because that's the hardest thing. Like the book, you have all that access to the humanity, and it's really your humanity, I think, Jack, right? You have all that access to your humanity through the internal monologue, and we have to find ways to bring that out on screen. And that kind of moment of connection with his daughter, coupled with, I think, saving Mac's life, which I think is really amazing choice. Those unleash him for what's to come.
Oh, yeah, you're exactly right on that moment with that. That's a great pull on that moment with his daughter when he touches a glass. Like that one hits you. That one is so heavy, so powerful, so deep, so well done. Yeah. Just really, 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 that was different. That one was just completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys crushed it. Max crushed it with the writing and then being there. And you guys did an amazing job on this. And and now we have a sprint to the end, 7 and 8 left to go. Oh, amazing. But thank you guys so much for doing this and sharing the experience with me and with the listeners and viewers. It's sincerely appreciated. And man, awesome. Yeah. Now let's go stack some bodies. Do it. Let's do it. Thank you to everybody who tuned in. Thank you for listening to the Terminal List podcast, an Ironclad original brought to you by KC Cattle Company, veteran owned and operated by The Way. If you like this conversation, be sure to leave a 5-star rating and review wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow me at Jack Carr USA on the social channels. Officialjackcarr.com is the website, and you can sign up for the newsletter there. And David DiGilio, follow him at DiGilio Films. That's DIGILIO Films on Instagram. And Jared, once again, is not on the social channels. And he's probably a much healthier person for it. But thank you guys so much for doing this, and let's go get after episode 7.